Some of the biggest money makers out there in 2025 are hiding in the shadows. And no, I'm not talking about starting a TikTok empire. I'm talking about side hustles that are so under the radar, they'll leave you questioning your day job. From cleaning up messes that even raccoons would pass on to turning literal garbage into gold, we're gonna be diving into 11 dirty side hustles that no one else is talking about, but absolutely should be. So if you're ready to roll up your sleeves and get paid, let's get into it. What if I told you that you could make $150 per hour cleaning up other people's messes? No, I'm not talking about regular cleaning, I'm talking about biohazard cleaning, where the real money is hiding in plain sight. Biohazard cleaning is exactly what it sounds like. Cleaning up hazardous materials in crime scenes, extreme hoarding situations, or any place where dangerous substances need professional handling. And it's kind of like being an emergency room doctor, but for buildings. And you're not just cleaning, you're literally bringing spaces back to life. And according to reports from actual biohazard cleaners on Reddit, small jobs start at $150 to $500. And this could be for something like a minor water loss incident under a sink. While larger jobs involving things like crime scenes can pay anywhere from $500 to $5,000. Even better, projects involving crawl spaces or major contamination can net you up to $20,000 per job. Take this paramedic who started doing biohazard cleaning as a side hustle. According to his Reddit post, he charges $100 to $150 extra per job depending on severity. And he turned his medical background into a perfect complementary business that now makes cash on the side. Now to get started, you'll need proper certifications and licenses. You also need professional grade PPE equipment, industrial cleaning supplies, and a reliable van or truck. Now the pros here is an extremely high hourly rate. There's also low competition and there's steady demand in any economy. The cons are it can be emotionally challenging work, it requires specific certifications, and you may have to do the work at inconvenient times. Now some of the certifications, licenses, courses you have to take are the OSHA Bloodborne Pathogen Standard Training, IICRC Crime Scene Cleanup Technician Certification, Hazardous Waste Operations and Emergency Response Certification, also known as HAZWOPER. And then there might be state-specific permits for biohazard waste handling, and there might be transportation permits if moving biohazardous materials, plus a business license specific to hazardous material handling. And these certifications can cost anywhere between $2,000 and $5,000 total, depending on the state and city you live in, and training typically takes 2 to 3 months to complete. So yeah, this one's a little bit harder to get into, and it might not be one that you can do all the time, hence why I put it on a side hustle video, but it's one where when something happens, if you are a person who has those certifications, there's not a lot of options out there. And so you're probably gonna be the person that they call. And so it's a really easy way to make extra money. And if you live in a big enough city or maybe a growing town, you could turn this into a full-time business. So I'm gonna give this one a 7 out of 10 opportunity score because in a world where sanitation and professional cleaning have become more important than ever, this one sits at the perfect intersection of high demand and low competition. However, I'm putting it at a 7 because there's a lot of certification requirements and you kind of have to have a really strong stomach in order to do it. Now, if you're already enjoying these ideas, go ahead and hit that like button because it helps the channel and it makes sure we keep bringing you hidden gems like this. And speaking of cleaning up messes, wait until you hear about the next dirty gold mine I'm about to talk about. This is a business that quite literally deals with nothing but grease, and that is grease trap cleaning. So you know those delicious fried foods that everybody loves at restaurants? Well, someone has to deal with all that grease. And if that someone is you, you can make an absolute fortune doing it. Yes, grease trap cleaning is a side hustle that literally turns restaurant waste into liquid gold. And you can think of it almost like being an oil change technician, but for restaurants. Because just like your car needs regular oil changes, every restaurant needs their grease trap cleaned. It's not just a service, it's a legal requirement. If a restaurant gets inspected and their grease trap isn't cleaned, they are going to get fined and they're going to get in a lot of trouble. And the numbers that you can bring in doing this are actually mind-blowing. Just look at this Redditor in Texas who shared that he runs a grease trap servicing company charging $300 per cleaning for a 500-gallon trap. And when you consider each job takes about 45 minutes and he services multiple restaurants daily, we're talking about 1,000 per day potential. And this Redditor shared that his friend became wealthy by cleaning restaurants' Ventahoods and other equipments that required a high temp power washer. And he started with just a basic pump truck, focusing on small local restaurants, and now has contracts with major chains across 3 different states. Now to get started, you'll need to rent some equipment such as a pump and or a power cleaner. And depending on the state you live in, you may need EPA and state level permits. business. Plus, you'll need a driver's license, basic mechanical knowledge, and you'll need to be able to reach out to local restaurants. Now, the pros of this one are you can get a recurring monthly revenue. So not only can you do this as a side hustle, but you absolutely can turn it into a full-time business. There's also very high profit margins, and it's an essential service that can't be outsourced. Plus, there's limited competition and it's a recession-proof business. The cons are there can be a high initial equipment cost. You either have to rent or get a pump and other equipment. It can also be physically demanding. There are also strong odors. In many cases, you'll have to do it either during the night or in early morning hours to avoid disrupting the business. But overall, I really like this one. I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10 opportunity score. Restaurants will always need their grease traps cleaned because it's a legal requirement. And with increasing food delivery and restaurant growth, this industry is only going to get bigger. Plus, strict environmental regulations that are expanding in different states means this service can't be cheaply outsourced overseas like many other things. Now, by the way, if doing these dirty side hustles isn't your thing, I created a completely free cheat sheet on how to get a remote job. And you can check that out by clicking down the description and the pinned comment below. So I have options for people no matter what you're interested in on this channel, which is why you should definitely subscribe as well. Now, if you think dealing with grease is dirty work, wait until you hear about our next business that literally cleans up after your business, and that is a portable toilet rental. Now, have you ever wondered who owns those blue boxes at every outdoor event? Well, they might be driving nicer cars than the event organizers themselves. I'm talking about Portable Toilet Rentals, a business that proves you can literally make money while other people handle their business. Basically, what you do here is you invest in portable toilets and then you rent them out to clients. And you can think of it like being a miniature landlord, but instead of dealing with tenant drama, you're just renting out plastic thrones that practically rent themselves. And the numbers here might make you have to sit down. Standard units typically rent for $25 to $475 a week. But here's where it gets interesting. ADA compliant units go for $100 to $700 per event, and deluxe flushing models can command up to $850 per week. Now, they say that shitposting is not allowed anymore, but take a look at this. Gary from the UK built his porta potty rental company Euroloo into a $9 million a year business. And he started with just basic units and smart marketing. And he focused on construction sites and events. And now he maintains a fleet of 4,000 portable toilets with a 90% utilization rate. So do the math on that. Now, to get started, you'll need a few basic portable toilet units. And these typically cost about $500 to $1,000 each. Plus, you'll need a truck with lifting capability, or I suppose you could rent the truck as well. And you'll need cleaning equipment and supplies because each time people use them, it's gonna need to be cleaned. Plus, you'll need some storage space for the porta potty units. Depending on where you live, you might need some local business permits, and you're definitely going to need a strong stomach. Now, the pros here are there is steady demand from construction and events. People are never going to stop pooping and peeing. There's also high profit margins. It's recession resistant, it's a scalable business model, and there's little day-to-day management needed. The cons here are there is initial investment in units. They also require storage space, there's competition in urban areas, and there's seasonal fluctuations. And obviously, you're going to be dealing with waste, and that's a pretty big con. So overall, I will give this one an 8 out of 10 opportunity score because everyone needs a bathroom. It's literally a basic human necessity. And as Forrest Gump said, shit happens, and you might as well be there to profit from it. All right, guys, so we're a few minutes into the video. What's your take on these unique side hustles? Have you ever tried any of them? Do you think you would try any of them? Have you heard of others trying them? Drop a comment below because we'd love to hear your stories or your questions. Also, if you think that there's one I should have included on this list that I didn't, drop that comment below as well. Now, speaking of dirty jobs nobody wants to do, let me tell you about the next side gig. A business where being a little bit trashy can make you incredibly wealthy. And that's medical waste disposal courier. And you know those red biohazard bags in doctors' offices? Well, turns out there's a gold mine in handling medical waste. And it's a market that's literally growing by the minute. Medical waste disposal isn't just about picking up trash. It's about being a crucial link in the healthcare supply chain, ensuring dangerous materials don't end up where they shouldn't. So you can think of it almost like being an environmental superhero in reverse. Instead of saving the planet from pollution, you're saving people from contaminated medical waste. And according to industry reports, medical waste removal costs between $2 and $20 per pound. But think about this. A typical small medical office produces about 2,000 pounds of medical waste annually. So do the math there. That's up to $40,000 per year just from one small client. Take this guy from Reddit, for instance, who started a medical courier service focusing on waste disposal. He laid down the types of waste you can possibly handle and notes how to handle these wastes for your safety. And to get started, you'll need proper licensing and certifications, so check with your local local area. You can literally ask AI about the licensing and certification in your local area if you don't know how to do it. A reliable vehicle, preferably a van, medical waste transport containers, relationships with disposable facilities, and knowledge of OSHA regulations, or regulations in whatever country that you're in, which, like I said, check with an AI, it'll probably lead you to the right place at least. Now, the pros here are consistent monthly contracts, high profit margins, growing industry, limited competition, and it's recession proof. The cons are there is heavy regulation, and I guess that could be a pro or a con depending on how you look at it, because that means there is a bigger barrier to entry. There is high liability, and because of that, you have to follow very strict protocols. Plus, there's an initial certification cost, and you have to deal with regular compliance audits. But overall, I'm gonna give this one a 9.5 out of 10 opportunity score, because there are a ton of healthcare facilities out there, and it's just expanding faster and faster. And medical waste disposal is becoming more crucial than ever. Plus, the aging population means more medical waste. It's literally a growing market that you can't ignore. Someone out there is very likely going to start a business that gets to the $100 million or $1 billion valuation, literally just getting rid of medical waste. And maybe you might be the person to do that. So let's get on to the next one, honey farming. And this is a side hustle that's as sweet as it sounds. Picture rows of buzzing beehives producing liquid gold while you enjoy the perks of being your own boss. Honey farming, also known as beekeeping, involves raising bees to produce honey, but not just honey, also beeswax and other hive products that you can sell. And it's kind of like managing tiny flying employees who work for nectar and occasionally sting you as their resignation letter. And the income can be surprisingly sweet. A small operation might pull in $300 to $500 per hive annually. James Hartman, for instance, started his honey farm with just $500 and turned it into a $41,000 a month business. And what's cool about this is that he began beekeeping as a form of therapy after leaving his job in the bomb squad. Talk about turning lemons into lemonade, or in this case, wildflowers into honey. $41,000 a month selling honey from his garden. Not bad. Now, getting started is relatively affordable. You need a few beehives that are around $300 each, some basic beekeeping gear, and a location with plenty of flowering plants. Now, this one might be a lot better for you if you have a large property, or you live out in the country, or you live maybe in a smaller town on the edge of town. Now, the pros, honey and other hive products are in constant demand, and it's great for the environment, and you can scale as your expertise grows. The cons, bees can be unpredictable, and maintaining hives takes consistent care and attention. So this side hustle gets a solid 7.5 out of 10 on the opportunity scale. It's lucrative and rewarding, but requires ongoing effort and a bit of bravery around stinging insects. Now, the cool thing about all of these side hustles is you can actually start a YouTube channel. This is the most common question that I've gotten over and over again from people that have emailed me or reached out to me is, Shane, how do I start my own YouTube channel? And it makes sense because YouTube is literally the #1 career that young people want to do, more than a doctor, a lawyer, or even a sports star. And luckily for you, I have completely free training on exactly how to grow and make money from YouTube, which I'll put down in the description and the pinned comment below. Do not miss out on it. I don't know how long it's going to be free, but I want to show you exactly how I was able to start a YouTube channel that makes millions of dollars a year and how you can do it as well. With that being said, let's move on to the next one, crawl space and attic cleaning. Have you ever wondered what's lurking in dark corners above your head or beneath your feet? Well, someone has to clean those spaces and they're making a killing doing it. Crawl space and attic cleaning, it's about tackling the forgotten spaces that most people are too scared to even look at. Think of it like being an urban spelunker, except instead of exploring caves, you're going to be navigating hidden passages of people's homes and getting paid handsomely for it. And basic attic cleaning starts at $100 to $500. But crawl space cleaning, that's where the real money is. We're talking $500 to $2,000 for a basic job and up to $5,000 when dealing with mold, fungus, or pest infestations. Take this Seattle contractor, for instance, who recently charged $9,400 for a 960 square foot attic job. The space was in really rough shape, but after a full clean, sanitizing, mold remediation, sealing all the cracks, and building a small storage area, they transformed it completely. Hey, maybe they could turn that into a YouTube studio. I tell people how to do that as well, link in the description in the pinned comment below. But yeah, to get started here, you'll need basic cleaning equipment, PPE gear, proper lighting, inspection tools, a strong back, and a stronger stomach. And the pros here are it's a high per job revenue, there's low competition, there's year-round demand, and you can combine it with other services. Plus, there's great word-of-mouth potential. The cons are it's physically demanding. There's confined spaces, potential health hazards, it's weather dependent, and it requires insurance. So I'm gonna give this one an 8.5 out of 10 opportunity score. With increasing home prices, more people are maximizing their existing space, including attics and crawl spaces. Plus, the specialized nature of the work keeps competition low while growing awareness of mold and air quality issues. So a lot of time you're gonna come in after a pest control company has already gotten rid of the pests and you just basically have to clean everything out. So yeah, really good one. And also, if you know somebody who could use a little inspiration for their next side hustle, hit that share button and spread the wealth. I don't have a big marketing team or anything like that. I basically rely on word of mouth for this channel, and a significant amount of people that come to this channel actually come to it because other people share it with them. Now, speaking of things that make people squeamish, wait until you hear making other people's misfortune into your fortune. Next is going to be foreclosed property cleaning. And you know what they say, one person's foreclosure is another person's fortune. And unfortunately, in today's real estate market, there's serious money to be made cleaning up foreclosed properties. And I'm not just talking about a little dusting. Think of it like being a property's reset button. When banks take over homes, they need someone to transform these often neglected properties back into sellable assets. Except instead of parts and paint, you're dealing with everything from basic cleaning to full property rehabilitation. And the numbers on this are staggering. Properties typically pay between $500 to $2,500 per cleanup job. But here's where it gets exciting. Many foreclosure cleaners make additional income selling valuable items left behind by the previous owners. For instance, this person's been cleaning out bank foreclosed homes for the past 17 years. And he shares that national companies pay between $30 to $35 per cubic yard of debris removed, while regional companies typically pay $18 per cubic yard. And the real profits come from additional services like demolishing decks, repairing roofs, and handling insurance claims. And to get started, you'll need basic cleaning equipment, a reliable truck or van, some space for storage, insurance. It definitely helps to have relationships with real estate agents or banks, and of course, a strong stomach. The pros here are there is a high per job payout, there's multiple revenue streams, typically it is a relatively flexible schedule, there's relatively low startup costs, and there's high demand in many markets. The cons are inconsistent workflow, it can be physically demanding, you're gonna be sometimes dealing with biohazards, and it requires thick skin. So I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10 opportunity score. This is another one of those dirty jobs or dirty side hustles that a lot of people need, and there's not a lot of people out there willing to do it. Now, speaking of abandoned properties, you know what loves dark, empty houses more than squatters? Mold. And where there's mold, there's money. Seriously, there's a lot of money. We're gonna be talking about mold remediation. And this isn't just about wiping down some bathroom tiles. We're gonna be talking about professional mold remediation, which is a specialized service that becomes more in demand as awareness of health risks starts to grow. It's becoming more and more common for people to realize that the mold in their house causes serious health problems. And when you do this, it's almost like being a detective and a surgeon combined. You're hunting down hidden threats and surgically removing them before they can spread further. And it's kind of like CSI meets home improvement. And the earning potential here is enough to make your eyes water. Small jobs can net you $150 to $500, while larger jobs dealing with extensive mold problems can bring in $3,000 to $20,000 per project. And these aren't rare cases either. One remediation job dealing with fire damage in an attic brought in over $20,000. Just ask Peppers here, who breaks it down perfectly. A small bathroom cleanup job can net $500 to $5,000, while medium-sized jobs involving crawl spaces typically bring in $3,000 to $20,000. And the big money comes from large-scale disasters, which can easily exceed $20,000 per job. Now, to get into this field, you'll need professional certification and training, specialized equipment and protective gear, insurance and proper licensing, a knowledge of health codes and regulations, strong attention to detail, and good relationships with home inspectors. And the pros here are you get a high profit margin. There's growing awareness, which means increasing demand. There's recurring business from property managers. There's less competition than general cleaning, and it's an essential service that can't be postponed. The cons are there is a significant initial investment in equipment, there's strict regulations and liability concerns, it does require some training, it can be physically demanding, and there is exposure to potentially harmful substances. But overall, I'm gonna give this one an 8 out of 10 opportunity score, because with increasing awareness of mold-related health issues and stricter real estate inspection requirements, the demand for these services isn't going anywhere but up. Now, if you think dealing with mold is dirty work, wait until you hear about the next opportunity. And this is actually cleaning up in an entirely different way. It turns out there's gold in poop. And I'm not talking metaphorical. Yes, you can get paid to do poop removal. And they say the best businesses solve real problems, and let's face it, dog poop in your yard is definitely a real problem. We're talking about professional pooper scooper services. And before you wrinkle your nose, you might want to see the numbers. This business is like being a lawn detective, except instead of looking for clues, you're looking for, well, you know, poop. But here's the thing. It's basically a subscription-based gold mine hiding in plain sight. And the numbers are anything but crappy. For a single job, you're looking at $26 per week for one visit and about $68 for 3 visits. And if you have multiple dogs, even better. 2 dogs fetch $31 to $72 per week. So do the math on a full client roster and you're looking at some serious monthly revenue. Now, how long do you think it actually takes a person to clean up the dog poop? Not long at all. Probably about 10 minutes. Take Will and Levi's story. They started Swoop Scoop with just $174 in equipment at the end of 2020. And within 3 months, they had 350 customers. And today they're making $200,000 per month in peak season. And they're managing about 2,000 customers across multiple locations. And that's not bad for picking up what others left behind. A $2.4 million a year business that you can start tomorrow with $174. Now, to get your own piece of this pie, you'll need basic equipment such as a rake, bags, disinfectant, reliable transportation, scheduling software or a notebook, insurance. It's not mandatory, but it is nice to have. And of course, a very strong stomach and a sense of humor. Now, the pros here are there's low startup costs, recurring monthly revenue, minimal competition, can't be automated, flexible schedule, and it's a weather-resistant business. The cons are it's obviously dealing with dog poop. So not a lot of people want to do that. There's also physical labor required, and you need many clients for a good income. Plus there's weather exposure and there might be some seasonal fluctuation. But overall, I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10 opportunity score. Doesn't require much at all to start. Plus it's a subscription model, which means predictable recurring revenue, which is every business owner's dream. All right, so we're done talking about cleaning up other people's messes, I promise. Well, kind of. Next on our list is another disposal business that's turning trash into cash. And that's trash pickup. What's that saying? One man's trash is another man's treasure? Well, in this case, it's literally true. I recently found an entrepreneur named Osvaldo who turned trash collection into a luxury valet service. And he started it all with just $500 during COVID. Now he's making over $23,000 per month collecting trash. And think of it like being a high-end concierge. But instead of handling hotel guests, you're handling garbage. Most trash removal services charge between $15 and $50 per month per household. And with just 100 regular customers paying $30 a month, that's $3,000 monthly recurring revenue. And what's really interesting is how Osvaldo approached this. He started his company, Trash and Go LLC, as a side hustle during COVID with only $500. Now the company is generating over $23,000 per month, with the idea to turn trash pickup into a luxury service. And he now runs his own valet service in the early morning and late evening. And just like Osvaldo, you can get started with a reliable pickup truck, basic liability insurance, local permits, storage space for sorting recyclables, strong back and work ethic, and marketing materials. And the pros here are you have low startup costs, recurring monthly income, flexible schedule options, every neighborhood needs it, and you can start small and scale up. The cons are there's early morning hours, physical labor is required, there's weather exposure, and there is some competition from big companies. Although a lot of the time they don't do a very good job. So overall, I'm gonna give this one a 7.5 out of 10 because the barriers to entry are pretty low, there's always demand, and you can start with just one neighborhood. Plus, with the rise of online shopping, people have more trash than ever. Now, the next one on the list is gonna be totally different than any of the other ones, and that is oyster farming. And you know the phrase, the world is your oyster? Well, for some people, it's not just a saying, it's a business plan. Meet oyster farming, where the payoff for growing these salty delicacies can be as rich as the flavor. Oyster farming involves cultivating oysters in coastal waters or estuaries and selling them to seafood markets, restaurants, or directly to consumers. And you can think of it as gardening, but your crops are underwater and come with a side of cocktail sauce. And according to Oldman Oysters, an investment of $10,000 can yield returns of $500,000 in just 2 to 5 years. Take James Frey, for example. He started his oyster farm with just $7,500 for cages, seeds, and a kayak. And a few years later, his business is Crystal Coast Oyster, and it's projected to hit $4 million in sales. And that's not bad for a guy who used to move refrigerators for a living. So yeah, he's making about $1.6 million a year in revenue. Now to get started, you'll need some oyster cages, a boat or kayak, and access to suitable waters. Plus a basic understanding of marine biology doesn't hurt, but passion and persistence are the real game changers here. Oysters, believe it or not, actually improve water quality, and the demand for seafood is consistently high. The cons is it's labor intensive. Depending on the state you live in, it likely requires permits, and you'll be at the mercy of weather and tides. Now this one's a little more complicated than some of the other ones on the list, but I'm gonna go ahead and give this side hustle a 7 out of 10. But if you wanna watch more dirty side hustles, I actually made a video that absolutely blew up, people loved it, and it has a bunch of other options for you, and you can check it out by clicking right here.